Score one for me. That hurt. Take this. Shut down.
2023 has been really good for gaming, and Jedi Survivor is one of the best games I played this year. I had so much fun playing this game, and this is my biggest takeaway here. This game is a blast, and it kept me hooked, and it was hard to put down, and that's thanks to all the things it does right. It takes everything that made Jedi Fallen Order great and improved on almost every aspect. Respawn, the developers, took the first game and made it better. Yes, this sequel is better, and it makes me feel quite confident that the next game they make is going to be even better than this one. The quality here for the most part is a step up, and although I still find it to lack a little bit of polish in certain sections, I still think there's something truly special here. Respawn is continuing to impress me with Star Wars, as I think they're pretty much making the best Star Wars games at the moment. The visuals are very nice, the detail is really good here. I often find myself pausing to admire the world, or Cal Kestis and his wardrobe of outfits, or BD-1 attached to my back. It is an adventure, and even after the credits roll, I have a feeling you will want to stay in this world a bit longer. If you're a fan of Star Wars, this game is a must play. I need to start off with the combat because it's amazing, like it's so good. It feels fluid and satisfying as ever, introducing new stances with the lightsaber to change up the flow of combat and dynamic. I love when a game has really satisfying combat that has both a mixture of challenge and fun, and Jedi Survivor does those two things very well. Combat is always a stunning spectacle as you fight enemies with the lightsaber. There's so much flashiness and style to it, and in my roughly 25 hours of playtime, I never once got bored. I was always excited to get into a fight, pull off a move, use a different strategy, combine elements. You really feel like a Jedi with the Force abilities at your disposal, and your agile, acrobatic nature as you fight all sorts of enemies as Cal Kestis. It is clear that Respawn Entertainment was inspired by the likes of the Dark Souls games. You could tell the people who made this game admired those games. And as I wouldn't necessarily compare the punishment and challenge the Souls games possess, Jedi Survivor can still be difficult at times because of the combat design and how you have to be more careful. You can't just mash the attack button here. You have to carefully fight, and this is where it becomes this rhythmic dance where you have to find openings to attack and know when to block, parry, or dodge out of the way. Parrying at the right moment feels satisfying, opening a window to get some damage in, and it rewards the player instead of simply just blocking. When an enemy turns red, it means that his incoming attack cannot be interrupted by a parry or a block, and you must dodge or jump out of the way to avoid damage. It is in these moments that combat can become challenging, as you have to quickly make decisions on the fly, especially when fighting multiple enemies, and be mindful of how you play. But this also opens this door to so many ways a fight can turn out. The best way I can describe the combat is that it's simple to understand the basics, but if you want to master it, it'll take some time. Luckily, this is where stances come in. There's a total of 5 stances that are all unique, and each have their pros and cons. I chose to use the normal lightsaber stance as you start out with, as I found it to be the most balanced with speed and damage, and just overall fun. It's not as fancy as the other ones, but it just felt really great to use. I really liked the mobility of it too, where I would jump over and attack enemies from above, which felt both satisfying and effective. I found that the dual-bladed stance was great for crowd control, where when I felt like I was overwhelmed by enemies, it was a stance that I could get the job done. There's an amazing deflectability here too, that takes care of enemies who shoot at you from a distance, and this was really awesome to pull off. I ended up using this stance a lot more as I got to the end game, and it just served as a great example of how every stance is unique, that has their own strengths and weaknesses, but most importantly, the game gives you the option and freedom to use whichever stance you want to use. You can literally stick to just one stance if you wanted and play the whole game that way. I played on Jedi Master difficulty, and enemies and encounters at times posed a challenge, especially some of the sub-boss enemies, whether they were human or monster. Once you get going and understand the combat better and find yourself improving, this is really where I think the game shines, as the flow of combat will feel much smoother and fluid. It can still feel very hectic and chaotic at times when there are multiple varieties of enemies all fighting you at once. It can feel overwhelming, and sometimes this is where it can feel a little wonky, like getting shot at from far away while you have one or two or even multiple enemies swarming you. The game does offer ways to fight every scenario, but it can still feel crazy at times, especially on harder difficulties. I need to talk about one gripe I do have when it comes to combat. The bigger monster fights that have always felt a tad bit off in quality is back here from Jedi Fallen Order. I don't know why, but these fights always feel a bit janky and undercooked. Like if they had maybe more time to fine-tune the fighting mechanics here. I don't know. There's always something that feels off about them. I just think they don't feel great. It's not bad, it could be better. These were always my least favorite enemy types in Jedi Fallen Order, and unfortunately, it makes a return here. It really just comes down to the enemy design and how it works with the combat. It always feels a bit off and underwhelming. Even the finisher in these fights don't feel as smooth and as polished as I would like it to be. But this is minor gripes in comparison to all the things this game does right. And this is an important topic I do want to talk about, is I feel like there are a lot of little areas in this game that can just feel a little underwhelming and underbaked. Whether it felt glitchy or what, but this game has that sprinkled throughout the whole experience. Just minor issues that can break game immersion, and I wouldn't say necessarily ruin the experience, but they can be disappointing. If it had a little bit more time to bake in the oven, as the cool kids would say, and just iron out all these problems, I think this game would be in a much better state and be praised more. Emphasis on platforming makes a return in a big way, with very unique traversal and level design, feeling engaging and just simply fun to pull off, especially in the later sections of the game when you have unlocked more abilities past the initial grappling hook. I personally love platformers, and this is a huge pillar of this game. You're going to be jumping, double jumping, dashing, wall running, grapple hooking your way through areas in the world in story missions while you're exploring, side content, to very challenging platforming puzzles you may encounter out in the world that are totally optional. You are constantly going to be platforming and traversing throughout this game, and I loved every moment of it, but you're going to do a lot of it, so just be warned. Things really kick off when you can string together more things you couldn't do at the beginning, then using platforming abilities to get there again. Platforming feels really great for the most part. It can have sections where it can feel off or kind of janky, but for the most part, it's really good. Yeah, there are areas where I died a couple times, but it was usually because of lack of experience on my part, or I didn't understand what to do. There was one platforming puzzle in particular I thought was truly an amazing and challenging course that really tested me and required me to be very precise at my very best to achieve it. These were a really neat addition to the game, and you can tell Respawn was having a lot of fun here. That's kind of the theme here. I feel like this is a game with a lot of creative freedom, because I just feel like the people who are making this game were really enjoying what they were making. You know what I mean? The combinations of platforming, combat, bigger sections to explore, even more Metroidvania level designs where you backtrack to areas to unlock things that were once locked, are all just really fun and kept me really engaged. It has this sense of feeling that I just want to jump back into the world to go explore, go somewhere I haven't been in a while, and see if I can figure out the puzzle, or maybe I can successfully do what it was that was stopping me in the first place. There's a lot of stuff to collect and things to do out in the world that will keep you busy for those who want to stay in this world a little bit longer. There's a ton of things on the main planet, and it keeps getting bigger and bigger as you progress through the story and are able to enter somewhere you couldn't reach before. Exploring in this game is some of the most fun I've had in a game in a while, and the Metroidvania level designs just work really well here. Again, the more things you unlock as you progress in the story. There's a lot of Star Warsy stuff here, so if you're a fan, you're gonna enjoy it. There's a cantina in this one that I really enjoy stepping inside, and it served as a place to hang out, talk to people, pick up side quests, and just enjoy the atmosphere. This place was awesome and just full of detail and charm that Star Wars fans will appreciate. There's all sorts of things to unlock, from outfits to lightsaber modifications to even customizing BD1's look by finding these things out in the open world. I will still say that finding a beard or haircut unlock in a chest still kind of feels weird and goofy, but hey, it is what it is. Some of these items can be found or bought by currency, which you also find. The map has been improved significantly here from Fallen Order, and you can actually teleport from meditation points, which is really good. And it allows you to backtrack to areas without hiking all the way there on foot like you did in Jedi Fallen Order. One complaint I have is that the game doesn't exactly tell you where to go sometimes, and I think this is kind of frustrating. I don't like games that hold your hand, but I also don't like when it's super confusing on what to do next. Had there been a marker of some sort that pinged you where the next objective was, I think this would have really saved some time and confusion in some sections of the game. I think the story here was okay for me personally. It was nothing to write home about, but maybe others might find it more enjoyable than I did. There are returning characters from the first, but honestly overall, I didn't really care. There were a few moments where I really enjoyed watching a cutscene, like one in particular where Cal is afraid of losing his way and failing. And I thought that was really good and grounded the character more. And I've overall really enjoyed Cal Kestis as a character. I've grown to really, enjoy playing as him and care about him. I really love when games evolve their protagonists in a good way. Cal has been through a lot, and you understand how his past has shaped him. I will say the story does get more interesting as you progress, and I did appreciate the unexpected twists and turns it took. There are some really cool moments that I won't spoil here. Let's just say the last fight scene was incredibly well done. It was really amazing. So I think the game ended on a really, really good note. I think every boss in this game was done very, very well. And man, that last fight was just something else. It wrapped up the game incredibly well. Besides the technical issues this game launched with, to the lack of polish and quality in certain segments of the game, I truly think Respawn did an outstanding job at the end of the day with this game. And as I stated, it's just bigger and better than Jedi Fallen Order. I liked it way more. It feels more fleshed out. Production value feels much bigger here, and I really just enjoyed my time with it a lot. But that wraps up the video, guys. I hope you liked it, and I'll see you guys next time.